In trying to get published at the beginning of my career, I had some missteps, some setbacks, and a whole lot of rejections. I had a few book ideas that never sold, and that are still sitting on my proverbial shelf. It wasn't until I really started to look at high concept ideas and study what made an idea high concept that I started to train my brain to think in a high concept way. It was in this research phase of my career that I began to recognize patterns in the book and movie industry. All of the big books and movies that were being released seemed to have 4 things in common, or what I've identified as the 4 secret ingredients of a high concept idea. Once I recognized this and started to brainstorm ideas that contained these 4 ingredients, that's when my career as a writer really took off. I started selling books, translation rights to foreign publishers, and optioning my books for movies and TV shows. Now every single one of my books is considered high concept. I can pitch them all in one sentence, which you will hear me do throughout this course. And they all have the 4 secret ingredients of a high concept idea that I'm about to share with you. Really quickly, these 4 ingredients are a fish out of water, a looming conflict, a hook, and a universal theme. And we're going to go into much more detail on each one starting right now. The first secret ingredient is one that I like to call fish out of water. The basic definition of this ingredient is the following: a character who is put at odds with his or her environment or the plot itself. What do I mean by that? I mean, a high concept idea has to have a character who doesn't fit in, feels out of place, flounders somehow in the story, is somehow ill-equipped to handle this particular plot. Why do these kinds of stories resonate with us? Because it's conflict, because it's realistic. No one wants to read a book or watch a movie about someone who has it all together, figures everything out right away, knocks every task out of the park, combats every obstacle flawlessly. Why? Because that's boring. It's not interesting. Having a character who is challenged by their environment or the plot elements you've given them is automatically interesting and engaging. As human beings, we like to see people struggle, because that's human. The human experience is full of struggle, so our characters must struggle too. And creating a fish out of water element in your story will immediately give your reader an idea of what that struggle looks like, without you even having to explain it to them. It's built right into that one sentence idea. Let's look at some examples. One of my favorite movies of all time is Legally Blonde. Here's a single sentence to describe this movie. An overlooked, superficial, dumb blonde follows her ex-boyfriend to Harvard Law School in order to try to win him back, but ends up finding her own self-worth instead. The fish out of water element of this description is pretty dang clear. A superficial dumb blonde at Harvard Law School. Boom. Instant comedy. We can see this play out in our mind right away, and it makes us go, ooh, I want to see that. Another example is Bridge of Spies, which can be pitched in one sentence as this. During the Cold War, an American lawyer is recruited to defend an arrested Soviet spy in court, and then help the CIA facilitate a prisoner exchange in East Germany. Why is this a fish out of water? Well, because he's just an average American lawyer who's been recruited to facilitate a prisoner exchange in East Germany. That's definitely out of his comfort zone, and we definitely see him struggle because of it. And here's a little twist on the fish out of water element. Finding Nemo. The main character, Marlin, is a fish. He's still in the water, and yet everything is unfamiliar to him. Finding Nemo can be described as the following. After his son is captured in the Great Barrier Reef and taken to Sydney, a timid clownfish sets out on a daring journey into the unknown to bring him home. The key is in the kind of character Marlin is. He's a timid clownfish. He's shy and reserved and not used to leaving his home. And yet he sets out on a daring adventure with sharks and sea turtles and all sorts of other challenges that will test him. And how about this amazing film? Winner of the 2014 Academy Award Best Picture, 12 Years a Slave. In the antebellum United States, Solomon Northup, a free black man from upstate New York, is abducted and sold into slavery in the South. Solomon is definitely a fish out of water. He's a free black man from the North who is sold into slavery in the South. 2 very different worlds create a very engaging and powerful film. And here's an example from one of my own books. In 2012, I released a young adult novel called 52 Reasons to Hate My Father. A spoiled teen heiress, famous for her party girl antics and tabloid headlines, is forced by her tycoon father to take on a different low-wage job every week for a year if she wants to receive her trust fund. The fish out of water elements were my favorite parts of this story. A spoiled teen heiress having to work 52 low-wage jobs was so much fun to write. So there you go. The first secret ingredient of a high-concept story idea. It must contain a main character who is in some way at odds with his or her environment or with the concept itself, in order to instantly engage the audience or the reader from only a short description. In the next lecture, we'll dive into secret ingredient number 2, a looming conflict. Thanks for watching.